All right, welcome everyone to chapter 19 of the ISIS papers. The I believe it's called the neurochemical basis for evil. I don't have the chapter with me up right now, but I believe that's the name of the chapter. And I want to start by getting people's summary of the chapter. Start by calling on our warrior Swa.
Um, it was very, like you said earlier. This is also one of my favorite chapters because um I think evil is a very good way to describe like what's been happening, what's going on. You know, white people's behavior, white supremacist behavior, and no one is comfortable in just calling it what it is. It's evil behavior, and I love this chapter because she defines it. This is a fear system, this is an evil system. It's deadly, it kills us, destroys us. So like I love this chapter, and I'm eternally grateful for Dr. Frances Cress Welsing for writing this book. Well, that's my little summary.
I'll go ahead and go now. For myself, it was the biological investigation that Dr. Frances Cress Welsing goes on in this chapter, and how she links the lack of melanin skin pigmentation as a basis for lacking sensitivity, as a basis for lacking empathy, and essentially at the end of it, a lacking of the harmonious understanding, a lack of harmony, and that leads to chaos and destruction, essentially, which is evil. So my interpretation and my biggest takeaway is that those who do not possess sufficient amount of melanin are, and by nature, by design, by some type of force, are evil. And can a few of them escape that reality? That's a question I cannot answer because the few of them are not making themselves known to myself, at least. So anyone that I would create would be simply imaginary, and I don't want to create any imaginary people because that's not constructive. So yeah, and also like the in-depth analysis on what melanin can allow one to do, such as his name is skipping my mind at the moment, but he was a black gentleman who was able to speak to the energy fields, energy frequencies of plants. Having the brain fart right now, but I know the down, so I'll be reading about it come soon. George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver. Thank you so much, Sister Mary. Uh, we're kidding, but yeah, thanks so much for that. And yeah, feel free to share your takeaways. What stood out the most for you? Well, once again, one of my favorite chapters, chapter 19, the neurochemical basis for evil.
In a nutshell, Martin Luther King said it best: to ignore evil is to be an advocate of it. And the writer has in other words, if I'm not consciously learning and fighting against it, I'm participating in it and I'm practicing. Um, there's other ways to be affected by evil, by by omission or by commission. Um, and that's what I got from this. Yeah, I got a deeper, really a deeper, more clear understanding of evil by reading this chapter. Excellent chapter. I didn't finish it, but actually I did just finish it. I didn't realize it's really short. But you can't deny her symbolism. The story, you know how she made the comparison with Ahab, uh, Ahab and the white whale, and how that was symbolic of white racism and the just the rage and the anger of this whale. So yeah, that was a good take.
I love so much how this chapter, yeah, like you talked about her breakdown of symbolism can't really be like you can't unsee it once she breaks it down for you. And I love that she used this chapter to also describe the relationship between a black man and woman, and gave her detailed theory of how it is that they should operate and why exactly it was targeted. So yeah, I look forward to our sharing of knowledge in this chapter.
All right, awesome. Thanks, everyone. So to get us indoctrinated,
What I like on page
oh,
232,
oh, sorry, my.
how she theorized that the presence of melanin in high concentration and blacks accounted for some of the observable differences in behavior between black and white people, religious responsiveness, rhythm, emotion responsiveness, sensitivity levels, noting the familiar saying amongst older black people, the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. If it ain't got soul, it ain't got no use. Also, I emphasize the song by James Brown. We got more soul. Further, I pointed out that the most sensitive body areas are the areas most highly pigmented. That's what I liked about. I liked that when I first, came across that.
Yeah, thank you for reading that. That was actually a part of my my notes to get through. I already got one down. Thank you. So I wanted to start us off by reading together. Uh, so let me go ahead and bring up ISIS papers, and we're going to be reading the first page together because I feel like the first page is very symbolic and it's a great synopsis of like what's basically happened. But what happened? Like it shows you what evil is, where it comes from, and everything, like in a very concise way. I don't think she's trying to be symbolic, but it could be um, badass. I think she's being straightforward. So let me get my share the screen. Can you guys see this?
Yeah. Girl chemical basis for evil.
So I'll go ahead and start by first of all, is this close enough for people to be able to see it and read?
I can see that perfect.
All right, and if not, I think Ben has a physical copy of the book, and I think Swa has one, and so does my mom have a physical copy of the book. So
What page is that?
this is on page 231. So
Oh.
yeah, the first paragraph, and then whoever wants to jump in, please do so. Um, the neurochemical basis for evil. The American philosopher William James has stated there is no doubt that health-mindedness is inadequate as a philosophical doctrine because evil facts, which it positively refuses to account for, are a genuine portion of reality, and they may, after all, be the best key to life significance, and possibly the only openers of our eyes to the deepest level of truth.
The Kabbalah, which literally means tradition, is the sum of Jewish mysticism, the tradition of things divine. The book Bear, an 1180 AD document on the Kabbalah concerning Satan states, it teaches that there is in God a principle that is called evil, and it lies in the north of God. It is written in Jeremiah 1:14, out of the north the evil shall break forth upon all the inhabitants of the land. That is to say, all evil that comes upon all the inhabitants of the land breaks forth out of the north. And what principle is this? Is the form of the hand, one of the seven holy forms which represent God as the original man. And it has many messengers, and all are named evil. And it is they that fling the world into guilt, for the Tobu is the north. And the Tobu means precisely the evil that confuses men until they sin. And it is the source of all man's evil impulses.
Can someone continue on?
In early Egyptian African tradition, evil was associated with Set, the brother of Osiris, Lord of the Perfect Black. Set eventually killed his brother Osiris and dismembered his body, which his sister wife Isis.
I can finish.
Took okay, now it's there. Helped restore to life. Osiris was the great Egyptian god figure. Set is considered the white brother.
In contrast, the early
Wait, Tracy, would you like to read
Um,
from In Contrast?
okay. In contrast to early Christian religion and the Bible related evil to the fallen angel Lucifer, a word that means light and that can be construed to mean white. However, in Middle Ages, for some European, the devil took on an appearance of a black man
Wow.
with long phallus, which has been modified as the present red color figure with a long tail and a long fork. Should I keep going or that's it?
That's all we need for now.
Okay, good.
So on the first page of the chapter, in Using Kabbalah,
What's wrong with your sound, Trey? What's wrong with your sound?
My bad. I was muted and I was coming.
Was talking for me.
Yeah, I was. That's why. So the Kabbalah on page 231 is from the Kabbalah. It says that evil comes from where?
The north.
The north. And what to me the north means Europe. The north means Western civilization. The north means white. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that I believe that with evil came whiteness, and with whiteness came evil. With white people came evil, and with evil came white people. And like Spa said earlier in our first chapter review when we were talking about Hannibal. In the year 417 AD, Hannibal could have sacked Rome. He could have sacked Rome. He could have killed Roman children and women and men, much like the Romans were killing Egyptian children, men, and women when they won their battles. So he could have did that, but he didn't, because black people are not evil. Black people do not and historically did not do evil things. Now we have black people doing some of the most evil things, so we've been trained to do evil things in the context of white supremacy.
Because they're emulating whiteness. That's what the stuff that these black people are doing nowadays, white people been doing it before time.
Yep. And let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and give more context. So on page 232, it reads, the Cress theory of color confrontation and racism, white supremacy, links whites' unjust behavior towards people of color, black, brown, red, and yellow, to whites' inability to produce melanin, skin pigment, and the skin melancholy. The whites' numerical minority status in the world, and ultimately their fear of global white genetic annihilation by the genetically dominant skin melanin producing non-white world majority are pointed out as additional reasons for white aggression towards people of color. This thesis helps me explain the evil kill or killed behaviors of the global white collective in relation to non-white people. So I really love this part because, um, of course, like there's a strong need for the kill or be killed mentality because white people are very aware that by black people and non-white people existing, they can be removed from the planet Earth just by those people having babies, and then those babies growing up, and then those babies having babies, and blah, et cetera, et cetera. But I would like to add another saying to this that's not in the book. Um, he was the guy who did the evolution theory. His name is not in my head at the moment, but he's a white gentleman. Was even know his name? The survival of the fittest guy. What's that guy's name?
Eugenics.
Yeah, Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin. He said survival of the fittest, and that popped into my head today when Mary we were talking about how cold it was. So we were walking to the park, and I'm thinking of, and Mary's telling me about like homeless people, how cold they must be. And I was very numb to that reality because in this system of racism, white supremacy, if you are sleeping on the street, I do as a white person, not even as a white person, as anyone, like this system says survival of the fittest. So if you're not able to be warm enough, that's you not being able to survive. That's you not being fit. Therefore, you either die or do better. And then the kill or be killed mentality says, hey, if you're not white, it's either me or you, pal. I fear for your life. He had a gun. Symbolically, whenever a black man is killed and the perpetrator of the murder says they had a gun, most of the time they do not have a gun, but what they do possess is a penis, and that is the biological weapon that the white man or the white person is saying was the gun. That penis is literally their annihilation because it has the self reproducing gene DNA. It's able to reproduce itself. Like when you have sex with someone and you have a baby, you are reproducing your image. Um, so yeah, just wanted to talk about that. Any thoughts or any responses to that?
Yeah. You said a mouthful, man.
Uh,
You pretty much broke it down for us. Very, very efficiently. Uh, so many things were running through my head while you were talking. Uh,
and one more thing to add. That fear can also be projected. I mean, I just tell you guys a little story. So today I was playing an online video game. And bless you, whoever sneezed. I was playing a online video game, and this white guy thought I was a white person as well, and he tells me Come on, you're
There was a white guy that thought you were white.
yeah. So because he sees I'm white, I'm like talking to him like I'm a white person. I'm getting information out of him,
Oh,
right? And then this guy tells me, "Come on, man. Come on, you're white. Doesn't your skin jump and crawl whenever you walk past a black person?" And I was like, "You know what? It does because I've been trained that way." But obviously, I'm lying. It does. When I see a black person, I don't feel fear or anything. But this person was confiding in me that as a white person, whenever he walked past a black person, his skin jumped. That's what he said. He's from Romania, so he's from a place that barely has white people in it. And and he's talking about how he used to go hunting with his dad and kill deer and all these things. And keep in mind, this is a person living in Eastern Europe, I believe. Romania is an Eastern European country. I could be wrong. It doesn't really matter. This system of white supremacy has made me confused anyway. Um,
Yeah, it was actually an amazing experience to like witness that. Trey basically using his voice to basically guide this guy, break down white supremacy, but acting as if he's a white man. It was amazing. Trey was just like, but I feel like we're only trained this way because, and he literally would quote Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, and the guy would agree with everything that he said. He would be like, because when we see them, it's annihilation. We see like, and then I feel like it's the same thing with my dad. When Trey was like, when my dad took me hunting, like the gun just it just felt like it was like a penis, you know, and the guy was agreeing with everything he was saying. I was like, this is what it's going to take. It's going to take like white passing voices to talk to European people, get them in a room and they think it's only them two, and actually break it down to them through everyday conversation. It was quite fascinating, actually. It should keep. I feel like it should keep it going. The guy was able to share so much. There was no defense because he felt he was talking to another white person. So he just shared everything that was on his mind. And I feel like you made a great friend today. Despite we'll be very surprised to see you when he finally does see you. But I think he made a great friend today.
I don't think he ever will be seeing me throughout his lifetime.
You don't know. I feel like he changed his life. You know.
You guys are echoing again.
Okay.
Just right quick, you know, to like peel back the layer all the way back to when those albinos were driven from Africa, and then for obvious two reasons, because they couldn't handle the sun and because they were being rejected as mutants, as mistakes. Uh, just imagine the degree of desolation, rejection. If you've ever experienced rejection, just imagine the degree of the feeling of rejection that you feel. And then you're driven to an area where it's a hostile environment where the earth is not your friend. The earth itself, from the snow and the conditions, exposure would just, oftentimes you hear people talk about using the term, well, they died from exposure, exposure just to the earth, just to nature. And then, having to survive in that. And then, so it's just by reading this and comparing what happened to them to the behavior of our children today. You all know that the little 19-year-old girl was murdered in front of my house last month, by her boyfriend, who's also, 19, 20-year-olds murdering each other, the kids murdering each other, right? And like Tracy mentioned, it's reenactment of what has been ingrained in us. We're repeating it back. But from a psychological standpoint, if your culture has been stripped from you, your language has been stripped from you, your what is it, culture, language, and history, your identity is erased and then replaced with something that is the opposite of you. And so you aspire and it's ingrained in you through the schools, like you said, through the media, through generations after generation after generation of evil and being told you're ignorant, being told you're useless, being deprived of any resources to raise yourself up, and you turn that anger, you turn it in on yourself. And so that's what happened to the white folks up in those caves, in those mountains, in the snow. You know, they had to eat each other. If they couldn't get an animal, they didn't have vegetation up there. They became savage. And so because they became savage and they realized what they were, they understood what it was going to be required to conquer the rest of the world, because they experimented on themselves. I think that instructor that was here a couple of weeks ago mentioned that. They did all of these atrocities. They committed all of these atrocities on themselves before they went out to the rest of the world. And the best trick of it all is instead of them murdering us now, they don't murder us now. They get us to murder each other.
Exactly.
Hiring to be like them. And would you say, Tracy?
Exactly.
I totally agree with everything you said then, and you reminded me of something that the white gentleman in Romania has said to me. He said, "We came out of the caves angry." Yeah, and we have to be grateful that we're not like that anymore. And
He said that?
Yeah. Yes, he did.
I was like,
Yeah. Um, yeah, I thought that was really funny when he said that because, like, I do believe that even white people know their roots. They know that they were chopping off heads and putting them on spikes. Mention black people, eating black people, raping black people. They subconsciously they have to know. Like, you cannot live in a society and be unaware of white supremacy. I firmly in my heart believe that every single white person on planet Earth is aware of white supremacy, white superiority, because, like, they act it out. Like, they wake up and then they're superior to the person next to them. Like, it's not a hard equation to look at.
wow.
It's very good.
But they're fish in water too. I look at us as fish in water. It's like the joke, two fish. I told you the joke. Two swim bites. The OG fish says to the young fish, "How's the water?" And they didn't. They looked at each other and ignored them. And was like, well, "What's
Yeah.
water?"
Yeah.
White people are in the water too. They don't. They've been steeped in it so long, they don't even realize that they're white supremacists.
Yeah.
Some of them, a lot, most of them.
Yeah.
I felt,
Mary, go for it.
yeah, I felt the reason why I was so surprised when I overheard Trey's friend mentioning the caves is because in my whole existence, I'm about to be 30 and I've never heard any white person ever talk about like caves at all, unless I'm watching it in a movie. Like in terms of conversation, that level of vulnerability has never been experienced. And I felt like the second, because he felt comfortable thinking that Trey was white, like maybe this is a conversation that they do have amongst themselves about we're not ever gonna go back there, so we need to do everything to make sure that we don't do that, and like work hard or whatever way they envision working hard, whether that be suppressing of people to make sure that they're not ran into the mountains. I feel like it kind of makes sense. It doesn't, but it makes sense in terms of like the global sense of colonization, wanting to be everywhere else and disassociating completely from caves or mountains or that kind of yeah. I found that very interesting because it was the first time I thought I think I've heard a white person be that vulnerable. And touching on what you had said, Ben and Tracy, also in terms of us black people doing it to ourselves, in mentioning of what we had, the passages we had read, that statement in particular where it says, where is it? Evil and it is the feeling of the. It's a statement of saying that yes, sorry, Tubu is in the north, and the Tubu means precisely the evil that confuses men until they sin. I feel like confusing us so much, confusing the black community or the black diaspora, African diaspora, so much so that we turn it onto ourselves. I think that is a sin to do to your own fellow man unjustly based on the fact that you can't do to anyone else. I feel like that's the confusion that they're talking about, confusing us so much so that we sit on ourselves, we turn away from, we don't see ourselves as the number one image. And the second you do, I think that's the biggest sin, first of all, taking away yourself as the not self, but your people as the god and pertaining it to another race and legacy. And I feel like, of course, self-respect comes into that, but it makes sense that like the Asian communities that don't seem to want to respect us as a black people, because they, as much as they are to participants or in oppressions of white supremacy, they have a first come first served basis of themselves. They would, like a black shop owner has told me, she would notice that Asian customers do not come to her black owned store. Black people go everywhere, go to every store, like it's an off license, so like any everyday trinkets, the top of your Oyster card. She said the only time that she notices Asian people come into her store is if the Asian store directly opposite is closed. That is, and she's been a business owner for 10 years, and after that observation, it's like they've been practicing group economics. That's the biggest sin. We turn away from each other and look everywhere else. I feel like one of the biggest sin amongst ourselves.
Yes, that is so true. I was just talking to someone about that, how we would go and spend somewhere else instead of trying to patronize with our own kind. And some reasons for that, if you go to another person's shop that says a different race, they are more courteous sometimes than a black one would. I've been into where I would go and patronize a different, like an Indian or something, and I would go to a black person and I would get the treatment. They're more courteous at the other one. And that kind of like turn you off why you don't want to spend with your all. Because I'd be like, I love to spend. If I find anything that's black owned, I go to it. Ask my kid, I go to it. I believe in, but it's that treatment too. We have to we have to realize just because we have a little something, we still have to be, be courteous to others, and you know, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people don't get that clientele like that too. I've noticed.
Mm-hmm. And just remember too, you just made me think of something, you know. Uh
Yeah, then and that's just a example of like how white supremacy has trained everyone. White domination has trained everyone. Just self hate, Just if you're white, all right, you're all right. If you're yellow, you're mellow. If you're brown, stick around. But if you're black, get back. So yeah, whenever you can expect to be treated, the worst when you're out and about the system, even by people who look like you because they've been
Yeah.
trained. They've been trained in self hate. That's how
It's
safe.
so sad, You try and talk to them, enlighten them, and they look at you like you done lost your mind. You're crazy.
Yeah.
what he
Like
said,
That's so true,
this path
Tracy.
that you guys is on, it's not going to be an easy one for you to get your brothers and sisters to understand. This is a hard path that you guys are treading. You know that.
Yeah, like we all just have to remember what and like we should understand that we live in a insane society, and as Neely Fuller has said, that when criticizing the people around us, when criticizing the people, understand that in the system of racism, white supremacy, um, black people and non-white people have been trained to be monsters and monstrosities, which are things that exhibit patterns of destructive behavior. You know, it's not constructive to be a monster or a monstrosity. You know, it's a creation. We were created this way. We were created to kill, target black, white
But
supremacy 101.
but how? How? That's what the writer is telling us systematically how they created this monster. How? I mean, in detail and really crystal clear and really simply put, what they did was found out that the hate and the deep feelings of inadequacy that they have with their lack of melanin, with their white skin, that seething hatred. In order for us to conquer the rest of the world, we are going to have to
Not too long ago. Look around that corner somewhere.
we, we're gonna have to teach everyone else to hate themselves. We're gonna have to get them, we're gonna have to strip them of their self-esteem, strip them of their worthiness, because that's where we're at. So in order, we have to raise ourselves, and the only way we can raise ourselves above them, because we don't have the true power, is to destroy them, to just not destroy them physically, destroy you mentally, destroy you psychologically, destroy your self-esteem, your self-worth. And that's a very successful, very powerful tactic that they were able to use to get us to hate our own skin color. Forget about all the rest of the stuff that we hate. For them, it's all about the melanin. For them, their hate of their melanin, get them to hate their melanin. And that is an amazing thing for someone that you can look right in their face and see they can't even go into the sun that gives
Yeah.
everything life on earth. You can't have life without it. And we're looking at them saying, we want to be that. We want to be
Yeah.
that.
Then what you're saying is so profound. I just want to reiterate something that you just said. Is you said they made us hate our own melanin, the one thing that they cannot produce substantial amounts of.
And that which is closest to God, if not God. And I think at the end of the day, they know who God is right there. You too. That's God. That's God. I see her right there, right? And so that's why they had to really promote, they really had to be sure they didn't make that Jesus white with brown eyes and brunette. They didn't make him, white with a dirty blonde or green eyes. They made sure he had to be the epitome, the absolute diametrically opposed opposite of God, of black, and flipped it on his head, and it's worked over the millennia. That's why this lady was here trying to talk to me about Christianity. That's what took me so long coming back. I had to break it down for her. you know, they did that to oppress you, to enslave you, to control you.
If your religion came with a sword to the throat, it should not be practiced. Um,
All great points mentioned to like just from that example you gave, Lizzie. So thank you. I wanted to also make a comment on that, like in terms of the treatment that you talked about. And I feel like, of course, self-hate, it's been covered in terms of why we treat each other that way, but also why you get a great treatment from other races is because I feel they are practicing the code of money over everything. So it's not like they're being kind to you; they're being kind to what you can do
Yeah,
for
I
their
understand that.
business.
Yes, that's true. I understand that, but it's
For us
still
black people, we don't
still
practice
want
code.
that type
So
of, you know, trust and believe. I don't go back to them too much. I just go back and I look for bargains too. I'm a very bargain shopper. If your prices is too high, I won't see you. I will go. I love my people. I do a lot of black stores and everything. So
yeah,
don't get it wrong. But it's just how,
yeah,
like I say, Our people, when they have a little something, they forget where they come from.
And that's because of course, the lack of exposure to money from an early age, so that they get that brand new feeling in them because they're installed with all these false values. It will go in gold chains. It'll go in a Jeep Lexus car. They can't talk to nobody no more. Like they just do the assumed mentality. Whereas if we were practicing code, we'll be kind to everybody who walks into our store because we know that's money. If you know what I
Yep.
mean. So we're still in that confused realm, which is why we constantly sin on ourselves.
Yep. Well,
So thanks everyone for being so sharing your information. You know, Confucius says share all that you can. The more information you share, the better. That's how problems get solved. And at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is end white supremacy. That's all we're trying to do is end this system. So our cousins and our aunties and our nephews and our fathers and mothers and daughters and sons. So all these people can live in a world that maybe isn't dominated by monsters. Maybe they won't have to hear about genocide every other week.
Yeah, I, I really love this chapter because like it reminds me that like I grew up watching like TV movies that like these characters like who want to like Dr. Evil wants to take over the world, like all these like evil like villains want to take over the world domination. I'm like, this is so dumb. I know I can do this shit. Like, why are you trying to take over the world? That's such a dumb goal, a dumb plan, And then I learned I learned more about reality and what's going on. And then not only that, that it's been done, it's happening right now. So I think it's really interesting that world domination is the concern of white folk. Control, domination, expansion, refinement at the cost of black bodies, non-white bodies, white survival, black destruction. So
I want to share my screen. Let's go ahead and read page 233 together. It's such a wonderful book of information. And in my notes, I had noted down, but it's just there's not one part to take away from it. I'd rather just read the whole thing with you guys, just to make sure that this information is being um, given to you guys' nervous system and you guys' DNA for all of eternity. So, share my screen. I'll go ahead and start. Can you guys see the screen?
No, not yet. Yeah.
Yeah, no? All right. We're going to be reading up to
No, you
the.
shared
Sure, what? What did I share? What?
This is what people are saying.
Why are you guys seeing that? Maybe it's supposed to change. Um,
Yeah.
all right, I don't know why I did that. I'm looking at something totally different on my screen. So we're going to be reading up to the top half of 234. So whoever reads the last paragraph, just make sure you read to the next page and finish the paragraph. Let me go ahead and start. This page is all about melanin and the lack of melanin and evil and it's a very delicious amount of information.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah. Now I'll go ahead and start. Once again, this is chapter 19, neurochemical basis for evil. Chapter 19 of Action Papers.
Okay, let me show you.
What?
This is how it was being seen.
Great.
If people are gonna follow it from here, it's gonna be hard to read all of it.
I don't know why it's like that. That's not what I'm seeing on my screen.
It's weird.
Can you guys see the photo? Well, most people have the book. Like everyone has the book actually, except us.
Ask if they can see the way I'm seeing it.
Are you starting from 15 years ago?
Yes.
Okay,
okay.
I'll start while you get it adjusted. Oh, you got it right there. Good.
Yeah. So can you guys see this? Is this nice frame for you
Starting
guys?
from 15 years ago.
Yeah.
That's clear enough.
Um,
Let's see this.
that's what we're reading that page. Yeah. All right. That's way longer than anticipated. Sorry about that. 15 years ago, in a paper entitled "Blacks, Hypertension, and the Active Skin Melacanite," Journal of Urban Health, 1975, I posited melanin, among other things, as a possible neurotransmitter in the skin, melacanites as the foundation of the sixth sense, the basis for knowledge of the unseen, including a deeper knowledge of bad. I explained that if the melacanites were sense receptors and melanin was a neurotransmitter, then the darker skin, the darker the skin, the higher the levels of hypertensions found. Primarily, this is true because people with darker skins are more sensitive to the energy currents around them. If those energy currents are stressful, they will be more stressed, increasing levels of hypertension.
In 1987, at the first Melanin Conference, I discussed the Cress theory of the George Washington Carver phenomenon, suggesting that the skin melacanites, melan, anyway, of this very black skinned scientist, high level concentration of melanin skin pigment enabled him to communicate with the energy frequencies emanating from plants. Thus, he was able to learn their secrets and purposes. Melon. Since my 1972 presentation on the neurochemical basis for soul, the neurochemical basis of evil has periodically come to mind, begging that I outline my thoughts on evil as the antithesis of soul. I relate soul in order spiritually and the affirmation of life. I equate evil with chaos and destruction, especially the destruction of life. The word evil, when spelled backwards, is live. The discussion of evil takes on even more significant proportions in light of this increasing number of persons in this society who openly are proclaiming themselves to be worshippers of the devil being the arch doer of evil. In contrast to worshiping God, or in contrast to worshiping God, reportedly, these persons participate in the ritual murder of human beings.
The concept of evil is not at all unusual in religious and philosophical discourse. Could you scroll a little bit higher up? Oh, sorry. The, yeah. Also, evil has been a frequent subsequent for literary exploration. The novel Moby Dick by Herman Melville is an example of the symbolic discussion of evil. In classical American literature, evil is approached less often in the natural sciences, including modern medicine. However, psychiatry is the one branch of modern medicine that has major attention. Yes, I can come off.
Major accidents and both
No, I'm just gonna maybe ascendance in both religion and philosophy, and thus the topic of evil has found discussants who consider themselves scientists and scientific. To read the last paragraph.
Thanks so much, everyone who read. So, what are your thoughts on that paragraph? I mean, on that page. I'll go by just saying that I think it's amazing, like what melanin does and how melanin directly influences what you can perceive and what you could take on. Um, for example, George Washington Carver was able to literally communicate with plants. They would tell him what plants they were. The plants would tell him what they were made for, what they could help him with, and he was able to communicate with the plants because of the melanin in his skin being able to energetically pick up messages that were being emitted from the plants.
What I what I love the most about what we just read there was of course the breakdown of melanin and its use, and the fact that she meant she had gone to the melanin conference. I felt like that was an amazing achievement for a black woman to do. Yeah, so kudos to Dr. Frances Cress Welsing for being like a black woman in a predominantly white space talking about melanin. Also, the sentences of live being evil backwards, or evil being lived backwards, and this is something I used to hear as a child a lot, and in my primary school, and also lived is the devil backwards. So for me, it just kind of just pertained to growing up. It made me think, if I want to like have like an amazing life, I have to basically be evil or selfish or a bad person if I want to live that life. That's the way that they sold living to be, if you know what I mean. And even that statement, you only live once, like that was supposed to like make our generations a bit more reckless. But I also think it was like basically don't think twice about the things you want to do. And of course that's not not applying morals to your thinking lessens your spirit in a sense, because you're just agreeing to anything, and which puts the body at dis-ease, because there's certain things that later on traumatically you look back and yeah. So it's always good to analyze and take repentance and and deal, just build it, just constantly focus on the choices that we make. But that mentality of living kind of tells you to just go for it, sort of thing. So I see the relationship there in that sense.
That was amazing how she really clearly put that evil is the antithesis of the soul. So the soul, which is really one with creation, right? One with God. Even Jesus told his disciples, the kingdom of heaven is within you. So it's like the God within us, the good within us, right? The opposite of the good within us is the evil with on the outside of us. Um, you know, the and that's the fragmentation that she's talking about. You know, the beauty and the power of the inner self, the inner life, of the inner intelligence that's not really tangible. You can't touch courage. You can't touch honesty and truth and these principles that are required to have civilization. They're invisible. They go into eternity. That's coming from that's the inside world. That's the inside self. You know, the outside self is money, property, and prestige, power. You know, the physical manifestations of what's going on the inside of you. So if you have pure evil going on the inside of you, then your God, your whole world, everything that is important to you is on the outside, is physical, is money, is Neely Fuller talks about it. It's also really, really clarified. We got to run through that medu netter, man. That's when you really start to really see the distinction between white, external, physical, no soul, no spirit, no God, and the black, pure spirit, the black beauty, the black God. You know, they want you to see that as evil, black as, and put. So they not only not see they did this trick didn't work by them building themselves up only, right? They had to build themselves up to this super ego thing that we talked about, and then tear down the rest of the world, make the rest of the world, everybody else, second world, third world, these terms they use, that we use, and we they get ingrained,
Bring me a juice.
and they ingrain this shit in our head, and now we think we're third class citizens. So anyway, I can ramble on, but that's what I thought about.
No, I agree
Bring me,
everything that was said.
bring me a
Um,
juice.
so I want to go ahead and go to page 234 and read a bit and then talk about this. So, for the ant, the greatest evil consists of killing ants. For the human being, the greatest evil consists of the obsessional, degrading, and killing other human beings. All lesser evils are simply added to this, i.e., destruction of other life forms, destruction of the planet, and destruction that extends beyond planet Earth. With evil so defined clearly, there is an overwhelming atmosphere of evil in the world. In fact, the entire planet exists in an atmosphere of degradation and murder. To ignore this evidence of evil, obsession with mass killings, and death is only to participate in the establishment and the maintenance of its reality. In fact, in effect, to participate in evil. On the other hand, to address this obsession with mass death and the degradation of human life and hopes of countering it is to affirm the dignity of human beings and the universe. So it is not human nature to kill for sport. It's not human nature to kill other humans. Um, I do not believe these things, and during my conversation with the white guy online, he said that everyone's born with these biases. People are just born biases. We're supposed to do these things. I'm like, you think people are born with biases? Biases means racism. Like, you think people are born racist? And I told him how you're right, but only for white people. Black people are not born racist. That's why you can get a bunch of white babies and show them images of black people, and they'll already know not to trust them. They already know not to perceive them as being beautiful or attractive. They already know to stay away. Black babies like all the pictures you show them, white and black people. They're fine with everybody. So yeah, biases are not natural to melanated people, to non-whites and black people, but to be biased is probably the norm for white people. I think white people exist from a standpoint where everything that's not them is hostile to them. Nature is hostile. People who live in nature are hostile. People who live with nature are uncivilized savages. That's the word what they use. And yeah, and evil. Like this whole just being idle while you watch evil happen is the same thing as participating in evil. Because for myself, I like to be honest. I tell people, "Sure, how you doing? I'm doing as good as I can be doing." But I'm also like, under constant attack. I'm black. People keep thinking I'm a threat. People keep thinking I'm gonna rob them because I have been classified as a criminal because of my black skin. Um, Like it's harder for me to like make it to certain places because of my black skin. All these things. I didn't ask for this. I'm living this life, and I'm highly targeted as a black person. I hop in a car, I'm worried about getting pulled over and get murdered. You know, I hop in my friend's car, and I'm worried about the same thing. All right. So I like to be honest, and I think we all should be honest about what's happening. I'm so glad that Dr. Frances Cress Welsing was honest about what was happening. Is there anyone have anything to say about that part? I really love the ant metaphor. It's not even a metaphor. It's just true. Ants don't really kill other ants, you know, for sport at least.
You know,
If not, we'll keep pushing. So on page 236, I wanted to talk about the of the well. So if you look at contemporary, if you look at modern society in the news, you'll see like whenever there's a story about an albino raccoon, an albino rabbit, albino anything, like white media loves it so much because they are seeing symbolic representations of themselves. White people are albinos. White people lack the proper amounts of melanin, therefore creating skin that is, you know, has been classified as white. Some of them even have blue eyes, which is like just even further showing the lack of melanin. So, and Moby Dick, like it's all about this whale that's being chased by a white crippled captain. Hold on, let's see. So yeah, I'm just gonna read. I think I can just skip that and go to the chapter at the end of this page because this is pretty much the part I want to decode. So
No, excuse me. I hate
yeah,
to. Are we on 236?
yeah.
Okay.
You guys have been saying about that part?
The little insert right here about those of us who are Caucasians seem to have. Well, actually, I don't want to hear. I'm talking. They talking about introspective healing, and yet another one deserving significant scientific event. And that right there, I agree with right there because it's easier. It seems like it's easier for a person of color to kill another person of color than for a white person to kill a one of them their own, and that needs to find. But it goes back to the self hate, that the esteem, the Jim Crow syndrome that black people have in themselves. So that's all right. I understand it.
And
It's not.
also, you,
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
you brought up a really good point. And just reminding me to could read this part also. He concludes war today is at least as much a matter of national pride as a racial pride. So I interpret this as saying, hey, like war right now is not like, oh, you're invading my country. I have to stop you from terrorizing my country. War right now basically is white supremacy, like white people sending soldiers to different countries as a act of racial pride. Because by eliminating these people in these countries, you are showing white supremacy. You are maintaining white supremacy. You're causing fear. You're depopulating the planet. You're doing all these things that I think um, showcases, like, you know, what the writer said: national pride and racial pride. The same thing. Um, but I think for reading that part, I definitely agree. Um, so let's talk about the whiteness of the whale. I'm just going to read this really quickly on page 236. What this is from the book Moby Dick. Um, what the white whale was to Ahab has been hinted, what at times he was to me, as yet remains unsaid. Aside from those more obvious considerations touching Moby Dick, which cannot be occasionally awakened in any man's soul, some alarm, there was another thought, or rather vague nameless horror concerning him, which at times by its intensity completely overpowered all the rest, and yet so mystical and well nigh ineffable was it that I almost despair of putting it in a comprehensible form. It was the whiteness of the well that above all things appalled me. But how can I hope to explain yet for all these accumulated associations with whatever is sweet and honorable and sublime? There yet lurks an elusive something in the innermost idea of this hue. What strikes more of a panic than the soul that redness which affrights in blood, that ghastly whiteness it is which imparts such an aberrant mildness, even more loathsome than terrific, to the dumb gloating of their aspects, so that not the fierce fanged tiger and his erotic coat can stagger courage as the white shrouded bear shark. So like most white things, this is very, very like in a way very abstract. Um, but what stands out to me is his his fascination with the whiteness of the whale, but also him being repulsed by it. And this shows to me um, that the writer of this book is very aware of his alienation. He's alienated from himself. The main character of this book is a white person who's crippled. Um, Basically, he's a mutant, and white people are, scientifically, if scientifically explained, those who have genetic deficiencies are inadequate genes are also considered mutants. So yeah, just keep that in mind. I also want to just um, continue on more of the readings by in this book, the Moby Dick. What is it that in the albino man so peculiarly repels and often shocks the eye, as that sometimes he is loathed by his own kith and kin? It is that whiteness which invests him, a thing expressed by the name he bears. The albino is all well made as other men, has no substantial deformity, and yet this mere aspect of all pervading whiteness makes him more strangely hideous than the ugliest abortion. Why should this be? So
Wow.
this is just a lot of information that this writer is giving us on how he feels about himself and how he feels about whiteness, consciously or subconsciously. I think this information is very valid.
Yeah.
And just to conclude, just to conclude um, this bit, I really love Dr. Francis's interpretation of what this means, and I'm gonna go ahead and read it. Melville's Captain Ahab. Keep in mind, Captain Ahab is the main character in Moby Dick. Captain Ahab sees the white whale as all evil of which he is in pursuit. In a letter to Nathaniel Hawthorne, Melville referred to Moby Dick as a wicked book. My own interpretation of the symbolism in this novel, which has been regarded as the greatest of all American novels, is that the crippled white Captain Ahab represents the mutant global population afflicted with albinism whiteness. The white whale is symbolic of racism, white supremacy, the major pursuit of the global white collective. The evil, destructive goal of the global white collective. This fierce evil pursuit in Moby Dick ends in a disaster for all, a deadly end in which the white ship captain and all of his crew, whites and non-whites alike, are destroyed. Yet one survived to tell the tale, foretelling the end of white supremacy as a specified power dynamic. So yeah, it's not surprising that this novel contains symbolism of albinism and white supremacy. And I also want to add that this was written, like after, written before the Civil War, when there was heightened tensions between black people and white people, meaning that black people were tired of being owned by white people. Um, so yeah, how do you guys interpret that? What do you guys think of that? What's your thoughts?
For me, oh, Ben's talking. Muted, Ben, but I'll just go ahead. Yeah, for me, it was very much, it just makes sense as to why it was a number one book, because I can imagine a lot of white people not wanting or not being able to like express themselves fully or even understand the feelings that they're feeling. But the way that, on a metaphoric level, if they can pick it up symbolically, the writer very much is asking the question for themselves. Like I feel for the writer, like at least they were able to express themselves in a way that mapped out white supremacy and showcased its downfall through the metaphor of the whale and it's the constant pursuit of this um, captain that was like possessedly fixated on the whale. It makes so much sense, and I appreciate the fact that it exists for white people to basically. It lets me know that in some form of compassion or in some form of their from their, like not all destruction is birthed from their pain. Like they can actually reflect on their alienation and create such some such forms of art for other people to interpret their own understanding of self.
Well said, Mary. Well said.
That's what I was gonna say. That was like profound. You two are geniuses. I think you already know that. And thank you, Tracy, for producing these geniuses. I mean, the way you're decoding this and breaking this down is not short of genius. What it made me think about was how this pandemic, right parallel at the same time with the pandemic, uh, which is a huge threat to white power, right? It's right parallel with it is the Black Power movement, and which was spawned by the murder of a black man and a string of murders that brought attention to all of the murders that have been happening. And it just I don't know, it's just this lady is just phenomenal to be able to connect the crises and the threat to society to the upheaval of white supremacy and how it's directly connected. And so it's really current, that we really have to be diligent right now. Like I said, I went to go get some more ammo for my Glock, and I got my shot is loaded,
You have your permit. As long as you have your permit for this type of stuff, which we know the Glock is, well, it could be legal, but anyway, as long as you have your permit, it's okay. But if you don't get your permit, don't be another brother watch that for nothing.
Well, if I do something, I'm taking my grandfather's Saturday night special. 38 revolver. If you can't get it done with that,
It can't be done.
you're in trouble. You're in trouble. You're in over your head.
Yeah. But yeah, just get your permit because everyone is getting them now. I'm going to go get me one. just because. These people are crazy. You do not know what's going to happen nowadays.
Well, I think we can predict people will continue to kill people for fun nowadays under the system of white supremacy.
But that's just so senseless. That's why it's up to you guys to spread the word. Enlighten
Uh,
some. All this, you're not going to get a handful. Be happy if you get one. That one can lead to another one. Spread it.
I agree. So let's go ahead and before we move on to closing comments, please have a volunteer to read the final paragraph on page 238. Whoever wants to go ahead and read that thing in its entirety. One of my favorite paragraphs ever written in the human language of English.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let me read that.
Yeah. Go for it.
Melville's linkage of evil and dread with the condition of albinism parallels my own thesis that the absence of the neuropeptide melanin, the absence of this black pigment in the skin and other aspects of the nervous system critically impairs the depth sensitivity of the nervous system and the ability to tune in to the total spectrum of energy frequencies in the universe. This deficiency of sensory awareness sets the stage for the absence of harmony, the chaos and destruction, which is evil. Thus, the injustice and evil of white supremacy not only has its foundation in the numerical minority status of the global white population and its genetically recessive status in terms of melanin pigment production, but the very absence of melanin in the nervous system in significant degrees, decreasing sensory input and thus sensitivity. It is an additional contributing factor in the problem of white supremacist injustice. White supremacy is the greatest known evil on earth. Likewise, racism, white supremacy, is the unified force field that encompasses all of the lesser evils we now recognize. Indeed, if the absence of melanin obstructs the nervous system's ability to tune into the total spectrum of frequencies in the universe, rendering those lacking melanin incapable of acting in harmony with those frequencies, then it becomes incumbent upon those possessing melanin to counteract evil. Wow.
Right. Knowledge, pure knowledge. Um,
Before we do closing comments, I wanted to read something and get you guys' opinion on it, if possible.
is that in the context of what we've been talking about?
Yeah, it's literally from this chapter. Yeah.
Of course.
All right. So it says this is from 234 with evil, and it actually goes into what Ben just read too.
Nisha, bring me that. I got a fly in here. Bring me that thing, that tennis thing.
All right, so from 234, with evil so defined, clearly there is an overwhelming atmosphere of evil in the world. In fact, the entire planet exists in an atmosphere of degradation and murder. To ignore this evidence of evil, this obsession with mass killing and death, is only to participate in the establishment and maintenance of its reality. In effect, to participate in evil. Do we think this is accurate? Do we think there can be no bystanders in this and what's going on planet Earth? You either are working with it or you're working against it.
Agreed.
Yeah, I have read that and we talked about that a bit. Maybe.
Yeah, I remember, but I didn't get that. I didn't get to share my insight, but I remember you reading it.
Yeah, but yeah, I totally agree. Like even today, like when I was having a conversation with the white person online, I was telling him that like this racism, it influences all aspects of our lives, whether we are aware of it or not. And if you are not actively speaking out against it, or letting it be known that it's a real thing, you are definitely complacent and participating in it. Like this is not like a bystander opportunity. You can't be a bystander in this. If you're a bystander, that means well, let me go back. If you are white and you are a bystander, you are a white supremacist and you are enjoying the benefits of white supremacy. You are enjoying your superiority. You are enjoying your white power. You are enjoying your immense freedom. You are enjoying your access to wealth. You are enjoying all those things. If you are black and a bystander, you are a victim of white supremacy, and you are either okay with being a subhuman. You are okay with being a Negro, a nigga, or whatever term you wanna slap on your forehead. You're okay with that. You're okay with having kids that are like basically there's no difference between bucks and buffalo to be hunted. You are okay with like your demise. You're okay with just having very very low outcomes and like not being able to succeed as easier as now as white people do. You're just okay with that. So if you're a bystander, you're either with it or against it. So bystanders are with white supremacy. Um, Counter races are against white supremacy, and anti-racist. I don't know what an anti-racist is. I don't know what an anti-racist is. I don't know what they do. Um, I do know counter racist things.
White supremacy? Just hate it as an emotion?
Yeah, perhaps. Um, but yeah, anyone want to ask last questions before we can move to close the time?
Yeah, I totally agree with the statements that we read, and I saw the other day. It was a little quote that said, "All it takes for racism to prevail is for good people to do nothing," and that good people I took under the context of more so people of the African diaspora. I took that more so as Black people. I feel like ignorant people also staying ill-informed or wanting to stay ill-informed in a sense, I'd say is a letting racism prevail in a sense is what racism calls for. It really wants us to do that and stay distracted. Yeah, so I agree.
That's why it's like really inspirational to see folks here, dedicated, attempting to be dedicated to learning about the problem so they come up with solutions. Well, I would love to hear my how can we reach game bangers? Like how can we get them to become counter racist, to effectively counter white supremacy racism?
Do the same thing that the white man did to us. They didn't just, we want to build their self-esteem. We know that. We want to build their self-esteem, we want to build their self-worth and all of that. But unfortunately, what the white man did was they overbuilt their self-esteem, put themselves on a pedestal, and then dehumanized everybody else. So what we need to do is tell the truth, tell them the truth. Just keep really reiterate in them that we're what you've been saying all along, Swab, is that we're prisoners of war. You know, really explain to them, look, you're a prisoner of war. Uh, I know it's hard. This is hard. It's hard for me to even articulate it, to get it out. But I was thinking about it. That's why I jumped right in, because I was exactly what I was thinking about when you asked it. Is that we have to really tear this white demon down and bury him and burn him and disintegrate his ass. And I mean verbally and psychologically to the gangbangers. We got to let them know that what evil is, how evil they are, and you're aspiring to be something evil, not something beautiful that you really are. I know it's a hard order. It's a hard order, but I think that's the start, is to really, really point out the evil of the white man, to make them feel better about themselves, because that's what they did to us. They dehumanized us. There was rumors that we had tails and, we're subhuman. We have to
Yep.
flip the script and make them the
Uh,
subhuman.
that's why
When
another.
this coronavirus is all over, and when I go back to different things that I used to go to, you come with me. I introduce you to some of the little homies. You just talk to them, and out of all somebody out of them will understand that, pass it on like that. You just have to talk to them
Uh,
in a normal way, not just putting yourself pushing it on them. Just talk to them. One, you pass it on, and then it goes on to another. That's how it's a chain reaction.
Yep.
Like I say, you may speak to 20 people. If one person out of that 20 gets the message, you done a good job.
Yep.
and I wanted to give an answer to Swal's question. So there's in gang culture, there's always like a top dog, either still alive or incarcerated or whatever. There's always like someone who's like an OG, and a lot of Los Angeles House and Crips look up to Monster Cody. I think he's still alive, and he wrote the book Monster about his activities being a Crip, and he killed a bunch of people, robbed a bunch of people, the whole shenanigans. And he went to prison, and then in prison he was in solitary confinement for his entire prison sentence. And then he changed his name from Cody to I forget, I can't really say it, but something Shakir. And then like he went back to the hood to try to like unify gangs and start to get them to stop doing what he's doing. But they already look up to him and are doing the stuff that he did in his book. His book only made them worse. So I think like reaching out to like gang leaders who are out the gang and like trying to get their support, and then basically using their platform to like try to reach the people who already look up to them. You know what I mean? It takes research and like communicating with people who may not be accessible, but that's one way to get to the gang members is talking to, because you know how he looked up at Tookie Williams, and Tookie Williams probably looked at somebody else, so it's like a going down a chain.
Yeah. It's always the big homie, little homie syndrome. Dang. Yeah,
I
I just
agree.
wanted to get the elders insight to that. Thanks.
I 100% agree. Um,
So thanks everyone. Thanks everyone. Let's go ahead and move towards closing comment. So now is your chance. If you have anything that you want to read and get off your chest about the chapter, now's your time.
Um, yeah, one of my not that it matters, but one of my favorite chapters, very important chapter. The our black skin, our melanin, is very powerful substance that white people have been like studying forever since they encountered it, and yeah, but at the same time they have been training people to hate this melanin, and that in itself is very evil. So chapter 19, everyone should read this if they want to understand what evil truly is, like what evil really is. It's just, you can look around it and see it all the time, but where does it come from? Racist man, racist woman, collectively white supremacists.
Very well put. Yeah. For my closing comments, I'd like to read the questions that
mute,
Dr.
mute,
Frank.
My
Sorry?
bad. I can my
mute, Trey.
Thank you. Yeah. I'd like to read the questions that Dr. Frances Cress Welsing had put up in terms of the okay, before there can be an effective struggle against evil. She even uses the term struggle, which lets us know that it's a journey. The following questions must be answered. What are the dynamic conditions in a society or culture that would stimulate such activity as announced as devil worship? Was that this question? Yeah, that would stimulate such activity as announced as devil worship. That's question one. What are the dynamics in a society and culture wherein increasing numbers of black males are being killed daily, yearly at epidemic levels? What are the what are the dynamics in a society for that? What are the exact causation dynamics in a society and culture wherein the greatest percentage of its resources are used in the development and production of instruments of death and destruction, like making masses nuclear weapons, mass wars that aid in genocide, making wars and making guns and distributing them in communities so civil wars can occur. Yeah. What are the exact dynamic conditions in a power system or culture wherein 50 million people can be destroyed in the course of a slave trade, as on the continent of Africa? What are the exact dynamic conditions in a power system or culture wherein 6 million Semites of the Jewish religion can be destroyed deliberately, or 20 million people killed in the course of war, such as in the Soviet Union during World War II? Now, question number 6. What are the dynamics in a society and culture in which hundreds of thousands or possibly millions are doomed to die of infection with a virus that increasing numbers are concluding was deliberately man-made? So that's Ebola. That is most most diseases that have come, cholera. I feel like there's a Simplex, and it's just constantly made in the lab until they see how much it affects the melanated population, because that's always the aim. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I feel like these questions are highly important to like just get out there and for us to like start being aware of and trying to answer. These questions are questions that we should be trying to answer on a daily basis, or at least be in our collective consciousness, so we can, so nothing surprises us like COVID coming about. This would be the second that we heard of COVID, based on historical events. We should already be like, okay, so this is that move. How we should already have our counter ready, because we understand that biological warfare is something that is done unto us. Nothing should take us by surprise now.
these two pages might be the two most important pages in the book. The one you just read, that page you just read, Mary, and the page you just, because that connects the two. That's the problem and the solution right there. Um, and it points out the diagnosis. As a psychiatrist, she's diagnosing these sick people. That's what this book is. It's a profile of a sick mind. And I just want to reiterate what you just read, this powerful paragraph at the end. Um, just about the nervous system, the sensitivity of the nervous system and the ability to tune into total spectrum of energy frequencies in the universe. This deficiency of sensory awareness sets the stage for the absence of harmony, the chaos and destruction, which is evil. That says it all. They do not have the depth. Um, the very absence of melanin in the nervous system in significant degrees decreases the sensory input. Well, we know what she's saying. We all know what she's saying. You can't. My father used to say, you know, I was in the streets some part of my life. Uh, early in life, I haven't always been the model citizen that I am today. Uh, you know, and I would be trying to do something. And my father told me one time, he said, well, you can't get butter from a duck. That's some old country stuff, right? You can't, if they don't have it, and because they don't have it, they're confused, they're suicidal, they're self-loathing, you know? And so because I'm confused, see, if I'm the boss, I was always the boss on my jobs, right? If I'm a boss and I'm confused and I want to stay being the boss, I better confuse everybody else that's working under me. So it makes it look like I know what I'm doing. Anyway, I don't want to keep you guys on. So yeah, that's what I had for that, for the end of
Um, my wind down. My closing comments. Um, I've long thought. Once I realized what melanin was when I was a kid. I was like, okay, so black people have melanin, and black people do all these things, like they dance and rhythm, they like speak in tongues and they cry in church and all these things. I was like, interesting. Then I realized that white people didn't have melanin. That's why they look the way they do. And I was like, is there a correlation between like behavior patterns and melanin? And guess what I found out through reading ISIS papers that there is 100% sure direct a direct correlation between melanin and behavior patterns and lack of melanin and behavior patterns. That's why you've never really heard of a black a group of Africans literally wiping another race of people off of the planet. Like you won't hear of Africans going into to Spain and like making it so every Spanish person is dead. You know, didn't happen. You know, however, you see instances of black people going into Spain and giving them
For real.
giving them like civilization, giving
I
them
feel you.
lessons, and just giving them knowledge basically. And yeah, so this
Went
chapter
up north somewhere, I don't
there is
know.
a very visible difference between those who have melanin and those who do not have melanin. That's my takeaway. It's my closing comments.
Yeah. Earlier, thanks for sharing that, Trey. Earlier, I misquoted Neely Fuller. It's very bad to do that. So I wanna fix that. And this is from the code book. And the question is, what is the correct thing to say when people criticize the general behavior of non-white people? Answer: say during the existence of white supremacy, all non-white people are directly or indirectly taught, led, and or forced to behave in the manner of monsters and or monstrosities. The system of white supremacy is scientifically designed to produce only two types of behaviors in non-white people: the behavior of monster and monstrosities. The term monster applies to any greatly destructive behavior by non white people who, for whatever reason, are subject to and are victims of white supremacy and who willfully and deliberately do major unjust harm to any person. The term monstrosity behavior applies to the general behavior of a non-white person who is subject to and or is a who is subject to and or is a victim of white supremacy and does not have the will and or the ability to end white supremacy racism. These terms explain that in birth, systematically trained and or forced to think, speak, and act in the manner of monsters and or monstrosities. This is one of the basic requirements of racist man and racist woman, white supremacists collectively. So Just wanted to clear that up.
Thanks for clearing that up. Uh, thanks everybody. Gonna stop there.